You do two things. One, you have to have an idea in your head of what you're looking for, and that comes from the script. So you have to know what the location must have. That's number one. And then you got to let the location talk to you and improve your ideas and be able to give you new ideas and say, oh, wow, if we don't have it there and we have it there, we'll be able to have this nice tree in the set, And so you have to be completely flat. You have to start with something, and then you have to be able to completely kill your darlings and be open to new ideas.
Because the movie here is set in one location over many, many, many years, I wanted to talk to you about many of your iconic locations, but particularly the ones that you and Tom Hanks worked on together. Let's start with Forrest Gump, and in particular, the bench. Can you talk about scouting the location, what you were looking for? It's an everyday identifiable place, but it's become so iconic, and why do you think that is outside of Tom's great performance?
The bench was for him to just start speaking to just random strangers who sit in the bench next to him, so that a public bench was the obvious thing. And then when we were scouting other locations in the South, we wanted to find a city that had an antebellum feel to it, and one of the few that still exists is Savannah. So we decided to position the bench there. And so that's sort of how that came about. That bench is a prop, and then we took it with us.
So the one that's in Savannah now, is that actually?
Oh no, that's a replica.
Have you heard Anya Taylor-Joy told Letterboxd that she was actually proposed to on that bench?
Oh, that's nice.
Did something special happen on the Forrest Gump bench?
Yes, my husband accidentally proposed to me on the Forrest Gump bench in Savannah.
Get out.
Complete accident, and he's a boy from Alabama, and I'm blonde, so.
You never know what you're going to get.
I think probably my favorite location on that film was the plantation where we built the Gump house. That was a nice one.
Yeah. Or I guess where Elvis danced.
Yeah, exactly.
Learned how to dance.
Yeah. It was a long process of scouting many islands, and we scouted the Caribbean, and we scouted the Gulf of Mexico, and we scouted obviously the Pacific, and we came upon the island that we chose, Monariki, in Fiji, because it was a sacred island, which means it was never inhabited. It ticked all the boxes of what we needed for that island, so we were very fortunate to find that one.
I know what you want for the audience to see, but maybe shooting wise and access, what were some things that you were looking for that the island should be able to provide that might not think about?
Well, I think the most important thing was that it had to have a beach that Chuck could wash up onto, but it also had to have this pinnacle where he could climb and look and see that he was in fact on a completely isolated island in the middle of the ocean, and there was nothing around him, and we had to have a place where he could climb so that we could do that shot that explains all that to the audience.
Can you talk a little bit about the environmental code of conduct that your crew did with the film, so that if you removed a plant, you had to plant a plant, and just kind of that symbiosis of that?
Yeah, we always do that. I mean, we never want to do anything that harms the environment. As a matter of fact, one of the great things about a movie company is we are an industry that doesn't pollute anything. And we want to pick up all the paper cups that are left over and reclaim the island. As a matter of fact, if you go to the island in Fiji where we shot the movie, you wouldn't recognize it because it's all completely grown in a different way after all these years.
I know there's 16 months in between when you first filmed and when you went back. Was there any unexpected things you had to do to kind of turn it back into what it was prior?
Actually built a little village out of these little plywood huts that we were able to take apart and leave them there. And then when we came back 60 months later, rebuild them, and that was where that was one for Tom to have as a dressing room and production office, and build those in the back of the. But there was, they had to go back and change a lot of things. But then again, when we came back, we were supposed to be gone for 4 years. So a change in it actually worked for us.
let me remind you, we are on a very tight schedule. And I've never been late before, and I am certainly not going to be late tonight.
The Polar Express, can you talk about what was your process of creating that while also keeping in mind motion capture, and very early on in motion capture as well?
I would just describe what everybody's looking at. Where, we would tape things on the floor so they knew where doorways might be or where walls might be, and pretty much show them a lot of concept paintings. And then that was it. They had to imagine it as best they could on their own. And sometimes they ask a question, I'd say, hey, Bob, what am I going to see if I look over there? And of course I would tell them whether it was true or not. I'd have an answer for them.
How did you do it? Was it many stages? How did you build this out while also keeping in mind it was always going to be the one shot, but include millions of years?
Well, we had 3 stages, and we built 2 houses, and then we had another stage which we used for all of our exteriors, and when the house didn't exist. And that was it. And when we were shooting on one, we were revamping the other, and just bouncing around like a checkerboard between all 3 of those stages. I like the idea of the concept of the actual intent of the graphic novel, which is this one fixed view of the world that the viewer only sees and never changes, but everything around it continually changes, including lives and time.
You could spend the rest of the night here.
I could spend the rest of my life here.
I think all that hard, heavy lifting was done before shooting, because that's where we had to make all the decisions and knew that everything that was going to happen in this movie was going to happen in this one view. And that was the most work that I had to do on the movie, is just make sure that where we're ultimately going to position that view of the audience is something that had to accommodate every single scene. And it was a daunting challenge, but it was a lot of fun.
What does it mean to reunite Tom and Robin for this particular project that is, spanning a lot of time?
Yeah, we worked on quite a few movies, Robin and I, after Gump, and yeah, it was great. They were perfect for the part, and it was wonderful to get back together. Perfectly when she said, "Hey, we're getting the band back together." So yeah, that was a lot of fun, and it was great working together, and we had a really good time.
Time sure does fly, doesn't it?
Sure does.